Business groups are pushing for changes to privacy laws to allow employers access to vaccination data from their workers. AI Group Chief Executive Willox says the move would allow businesses to help stop outbreaks by identifying which of their workers are most at risk. Willox joins me now from Melbourne. There'll be all sorts of concerns people have here in terms of privacy. How would this work in practice?
Well, Peter, think of it this way. We have the situation now where the government's working its way towards mandatory vaccination for aged care workers, which is a decision they've taken. That's fine. But aged care workers aren't the only ones who work in aged care centres. You've got the maintenance workers, you've got the delivery drivers, you've got the food deliveries, everything you can think of, gardeners, the whole lot. And all of our members who work in different sectors of the economy, retail and the like, which are very public-facing, are raising concerns that they need to know, or they should be able to know, who among their staff is vaccinated, not to work in any discriminatory way against them, but to minimise the risks for the public and those who we're trying to protect. And they don't want to unwittingly send unvaccinated staff into places that otherwise, they should be, there should be vaccinations in place, and there are very vulnerable people there. So that's what business is concerned about. It happens a lot in the United States that business knows who among their staff is vaccinated and who isn't.
So you mean an example where, you're driving a Coles delivery truck and one truck goes to a school perhaps and one goes to an aged care home. You put the vaccination worker on the truck that ends up at the aged care home. Is that what you're talking about?
That's absolutely right. So then you have some transparency around who you're sending in, because businesses don't want to be blamed for creating a circumstance where there could be an outbreak. And that example you gave is a good one. Someone going in to repair the refrigeration in an aged care centre, for instance, or to do other work within the centre. They're the sort of things that businesses are looking at, because right now there's a gap, there's a loophole, and business can't ask more broadly. And if they were able to have that information, there would have to be guarantees and processes put in place around security of that information. It's not to use as a discrimination method, it's to use as basically a public safety device. That's what we're looking at here.
I've noticed in the last couple of weeks, business has really stepped into the fray on the debate about getting this vaccine rollout on track and seeing what they can do. I know at Sky News, if the flu jab season comes around, there's always opportunities for the flu jab to be done in the studio, in the business. I know it happens right around the country. Is there something that business can do now in relation to this vaccine rollout? And I have to say, business take really big issues to market. They do big product launches. They seem to do it a lot better than government does. Is there any way you can take over some of the running of this?
It's a really good question, Peter, and we spoke with government late last year around the vaccine rollout, and at that point it was largely focused on aged care centres, childcare centres and the like, but we made it very clear on behalf of our members, as did other business organisations, that there would have to be a role at some point for business here. Business has a role because that's where people come together, so business has a role in encouraging people, helping provide advice for people in workplaces around vaccinations, the risks, the opportunities, etc., etc. Business also has a role around, we would hope, being part of a rollout of the vaccine. That's how you're going to speed it up, is to get people in workplaces or around work sites able to be vaccinated, so it's simple and easy for them. And that's what we would like to see happen. You see the UK is moving to a third vaccine being administered. If we're going to get to that point, we've got to find a quicker way of doing it. We've got to find ways where people are able to access vaccines more quickly, and workplaces, just like with the flu vaccine, seem very much a sensible place for this to occur. The big issue is that at the moment businesses don't have any indemnity from government around this, and that's the one thing they'd need. It would also help them with the indemnity to provide advice and encouragement and information to their staff. That's a bit of a holdback for business at the moment. So it's just things like that if we put in place have the potential to speed up a vaccine rollout, which seems to be what everyone's wanting to do.
Absolutely. Buried in all the news today was, of course, a speech by Anthony Albanese at the Press Club. He wants a Bob Hawke-style jobs summit if he's elected as Prime Minister at the next election to work towards full employment. He says there's got to be a very strong recovery from the pandemic. What did you make of, we've heard the summit obviously before in the Bob Hawke era, it was promised and held. What did you make of his speech and the broader sort of debate about the intergenerational report? A lot of worry in that out today, on Monday.
Well, Peter, the intergenerational report laid bare the challenges we face, debt and deficit through to 2061 and beyond, huge productivity challenges for the economy that we have to address. It really laid bare the huge gaps and issues that we have to address, and it really behoves government to take up the reform challenge. And that was the message from the intergenerational report. We just can't keep going like this. And COVID will be living with us in an economic sense, probably far beyond that it lives with us in a health sense because of the impact. So we need to take steps quickly. We saw Anthony Albanese's speech today. Of course, business would always welcome talking with any government, and we do, but it has to be around the key issues that are going to drive the economy forward. We just can't go back to having the old discussions around, insecure work and the like, with, the unions claiming that up to 40% of the workforce is in insecure work and need to be put into permanent work. That includes your tradies, your plumbers and your sparkies who are doing very well for themselves. If we're going to have a summit, we have to have an agreement around what the real issues are. We've had works with unions before on the IR reform last year. They weren't as successful as we would have wanted because the unions didn't actually kick into that as anyone who was involved would have liked. So there has to be commitment from all sides, and it has to be around the real issues that matter to make our economy work better. When you get that happening, of course, we all want to talk, and that benefits everyone.
Well, we're leading into an election cycle, absolutely. So I'm sure there's plenty of speeches to come. Willox, thank you for your time.
A lot more. Thanks, Peter.